Good morning. Warm welcome to our first Sunday forum of the program here. It's great to see everyone this morning. We are going to record this just so that we have it for anyone who missed it and wants to check it out. It's great to have you, Father Cook. Welcome. Thank you. And why don't we say a quick prayer as we get started? The Lord be with you. Let us pray. We thank you, O Lord, for this day and for meeting us in it. We thank you for this new year ahead of us and for the Sunday forums that we will enjoy together. Help us this morning as we talk with Father Cook about his life and his ministry. Continue to inspire and equip us as you call us to be your people in this world. And we thank you now for the great gift of your Son, Jesus Christ, in whose name we now pray. Amen. Well, it's great to have you. If you want to see, you can sit or stand, whatever you want to do. We'll have a little time for Q&A, but I wanted to just start with a few quick questions to Jim Cook, who is our new part-time assisting priest, which basically means that he gets to work here and there, primarily in pastoral care and some of our liturgies. So he presided this morning, he preached last week, and then you'll be around, and then you'll not be around. Yeah, so that's one of the nice things about being retired, right?
I was just saying, what's really going on is my wife Karen, when you retire, and all of a sudden you're home together a lot. She calls me and says, anything you could possibly get him to do up there. So she is the happiest woman in the world. On Tuesday mornings when I'm committed to coming up here for staff meetings, some other things, a podcast, and some of that, where I actually have to be up here. And so she's like, bye. So you're really doing pastoral care to the Cook family.
But you retired from St. Mark's as the rector in January or February 1st. So it's been about 8 months in retirement. Why don't we start with that? What have you been up to these last 8 months in retirement? And
well, the timing of that, again, really goes back to my wife, who had a knee replacement surgery scheduled in March, and then through that operation, she's done really well. Her hip, the therapists were like, you got a really bad hip, which she's had pain in, so she had a hip replacement in May. And we had a newborn Ava, we were here for their baptism. Ava, they live up here in Preston Pines, when my son Colby and his wife Brianna, and had a baby Ava, and she was born in, do you remember when that was? March. I think March.
I didn't want to see her.
Yeah, you would.
I don't remember.
So literally the first 6 months, where we knew we had to retire kind of then, where I was going to take a bunch of time off because you can't get through all this stuff alone. So that precipitated that. So once we've kind of gotten into these more summer months and you start to get into a bit more of a routine, it seemed good that I'm still have some things to offer and want to keep busy. She's happy to keep me busy. I've worked with Sanford for 9 years or so down in St. Mark's, so we have a really good friendship and nothing too committed in a way. And I told myself I want freedom to be able to be gone, especially on weekends. You can imagine when it's been like this Christmas, we're going to go up to North Georgia. We rented a place for a week, kind of over that. And we've been together as a family. I've been a priest for 32 years. And so we haven't had a Christmas Eve without me working and sitting there. So and I'm really grateful to Good Shepherd and for you, Sanford, for letting us kind of live into that next chapter of our lives together, but still being able to do ministry and help out and serve Good Shepherd. It's always been a wonderful relationship between Good Shepherd and St. Mark's, and a lot of us have worked together on things over the years, and it feels kind of like a second home here.
And just tell us, you mentioned Colby and Rihanna and Ava, and then you've also got another child actually closer to your house.
Yes, Nate and his wife Crystal, and Henry and Abigail, which you all see up there in the front, right? They live down in the gardens, and so both of the boys are close after many years of them being far away. Colby lived in Sydney, Australia. That's where he met Rihanna, who's from Sydney. And he's with Hilton Hotels, and he's been kind of all over the place, the country, and moved a lot. And my older son Nate worked his way up to become a captain of yachts. He was a deckhand when he graduated from school from Eckerd College on the other side of the state. And it's not like what you see on Bravo's. That's what he he tells us at least. I hope that's true. But he is now, he got off those, like actually being on the yachts, and he now is the CEO of the yacht management company down in Fort Lauderdale. And he's currently just sent a picture of him in Monaco for 10 days because their company has an office over there. So it's a tough life, and it's also a tough life because you're dealing with, billionaires who demand a lot, and crews and captains, and he's managing them. So he's got his hands full, but it's great to have him in town, and
Yeah.
so we're spending.
So between the medical stuff and then I call and you often have the kids with you,
Oh,
the
yes.
house and babysitting and all that
Trying
kind of stuff.
desperately not to get in car lines and
Right.
picking them up. How to do that. So thank you for
Yeah, so
spending
there you
me.
go.
This is all about me, not really about the children.
So I mean it's good to be kind of reunited in a new configuration. You were the rector that hired me shortly after I was ordained and served with you nine and a half years. So now we've reversed roles a little bit. I mean, you're not full time, but
It's very, I really like the role reversal. When I worked with Sanford Dunn at St. Mark's, he used to come and laugh and say, you know what, I love it when I meet people I'm greeting folks on a Sunday morning in the narthex and they start to share their opinions about things at St. Mark's. And Sanford would say, you know what, that is a rector question. Just go back to So come to me and ask me a hard question. I cannot wait to say it's a rector question. Don't talk to us.
it's only a
It's
payback.
great.
It's only
Oh,
a
yeah.
payback for justice, right? That's good. And I would say, I'm going to this is kind of a leading question, but there is kind of a hallmark of your perspective on the gospel and your kind of ministry and the way that you see the Bible and God and Jesus, and it's been a common through line through probably all 32 of those years. If you just want to articulate that really quickly, because I think it's a good North Star.
It's
Yeah.
all about love at the end of the day. In teaching like Bible studies or anything you get, like you're doing Revelation right now, and you get caught in the weeds, right? These parables this morning, and you're like, the readings from the Hebrew scriptures. I mean, they're hard. It's hard, and you've got to really work at trying to figure out the context of those stories and what's going on in the environment, and taking that and then just applying a couple phrases to something going on today. I think that's a misuse of the scripture. So whenever we get lost in those weeds, I always tell everybody, you guys, just remember what the sort of the headline is at the top of the story. It's always about God's love for us and God's amazing grace. And go back and measure what you're saying and reading kind of against that headline. I was actually a couple of journalism degrees, started out in that world. So I've always, from the beginning of my time that I went to the University of Wisconsin up in Madison, and you learn how to write a story, right? And the headlines and the main storyline, right? And that first paragraph, all that basic stuff. And I think some of that is carried down all the way I think about how we study the scriptures, and therefore how we meet God through Jesus Christ. And at the end of the day, and it's about love, but when we study what that means and what that word means in scripture, it is not kumbaya. It's not like anything goes, or there's nothing required of us. It actually, I believe it puts more accountability on us in how it is that we live together in a broken world where everyone carries that image of God, and where I'm also broken, and I don't necessarily have any answers other than to know that the only way to get through it is to have a relationship with this God of ours, who is ultimately the agape love, that kind of self-giving love, and love is so Pollyanna-ish the way it's used in our culture that you're dismissed. And I'm like, no, I actually think that's the only way through this life. But
it's certainly a North Star that you've been very disciplined about. I think naturally, I don't necessarily think you're contorting yourself into it. It's been a real inspiration to me, who loves to get lost in the weeds. I mean, wait till you hear my sermon this morning. It's like, so many weeds we could get lost in, and I try to keep it. I try to
You
stay.
still end up on grace. You
do?
still
I do.
end up in a crazy parable. That is crazy, and that's why they're fun.
Yeah, right. They're
Bible's-
hard.
Scripture is fun
Right.
because you can't really figure it out. And I think that's what a relationship with God is like. It's like you're in this constant moment-to-moment relationship with God, and you want this, and you're not getting it, and God's there, and He's not there, and this is happening, and you're like, you want to walk away from it. But for all of us who are in long-term relationships with people we love, I mean, marriage can be like that in a way. I don't mean to be denigrating about it. It's hard, but you've made a commitment. You're in it. This is it. I'm going to stick with you. And every moment of that relationship, it's always kind of changing. We're not stagnant people, and I think we change in relationship to God, right? I mean, we're always, but God is always consistent. But even in the Bible, people change God's mind, right? So it's fascinating. I love that. I mean, but I don't come up with any real answers. It's just more like, oh, go to Father Graufeld with hard questions.
On a different note, I want to talk a little bit about some of your gifts and your skills, and I want to start with about a year into my time as the associate at St. Mark's. We were in the office, and it was, at this point I'd probably, the honeymoon had kind of worn off a little bit, and we were sitting in the office and talking about kind of when you get stressed out, and when things, are busy and there are just too many things to kind of get to in one day. And so Jim goes, well, when I get really stressed and busy, I just love to run over to the hospital. Now, if you know where St. Mark's is, it's across the street from Gardens Hospital, and so you could literally, we just would run across the street, and that's where. So when I get really, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the day is completely falling apart around me, I run over to the hospital, and I feel like $1 million afterwards. And I'm looking at him like, are you kidding me? Like, in what world do you feel like $1 million after you've gone over and you've seen someone in ICU? Hospitals are pretty intense places, and I hate blood, so I just, that is the absolute last one. I go, you are out of your mind, but he said, I really feel like at the hospital I'm a priest, right? I'm doing what God has called me to do at my very kind of core, right? And I kind of looked at that and I thought, this guy's out of his mind. And he said, why? Where do you find kind of that stability and stuff? And I said, when I can close the door and sit down with my to-do list. Like, I love going through it. And so here's who you've hired as a rector. The good news is that we have complementary gifts that I've actually benefited from for almost a decade, learning how to, I can run to the hospital now. I still don't find it all that relaxing. But if you ever need me to come to the hospital, I will come, and I will be very happy to be there for a short amount of time. And say prayers. Please don't mess with any tubes or anything. I'll pass out. But I think that's one of the things about kind of God's economy I find inspiring, which is that here God has kind of inspired two, what I would consider, we're not opposites in so many ways, but in this particular way, you've got this great pastoral gift that I have greatly benefited from. I don't know if you benefited from my to-do lists, but I think that's also one. Do you want to just comment on your pastoral sensibility?
I think as I've retired, for example, and you kind of assess sort of everything that's going on in your mind, and you kind of go back to what you felt like was some call. Why did I pursue this from the beginning? And then you get to the very end of it, and you're no longer a rector. And I said to you, I'm sure, and I know I've said to other people that sometimes a place like St. Mark's, you really could bring a tie and a sport coat on, and you're really like a chief executive officer of a company. And you can feel that you're really distanced from the call of being a priest. You're running a multi-million-dollar business down there, 400 or 500 kids in schools, 125 faculty, and church big, and all that. You can get I can get lost in that part of the job, which canons require us to be and do. We don't have a choice. But sometimes I have to struggle, well, how is this being a priest? Maybe there should be an executive officer doing this so that the priest can go do the work that you were called to, right? I'm sure we feel that in all of our different jobs, even at points. So for me, like going to the hospital is like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm a priest. And I feel that in retirement. And I've studied care, like I'm a priest. I was a priest as a rector, or as an associate rector. But at the end of the day, there is something inherently within me that I almost better maybe appreciate or understand now than I did for a lot of the time I was working in the church. And it's still so basic for me. It hasn't gotten any more like sophisticated about what that means, but there's something that God has implanted within me from the beginning that I have a pretty strong sense of compassion for others. I have this we were talking about there, this very childlike, last week when I said Jesus loves me, this I know from the Bible. That's pretty much what you're going to get from Jim Cook. It's kind of like trying to understand that. My journey at seminaries, it never was really about building my faith in here. It was kind of an intellect on what was going on in here. Does that make sense? And others come to seminary and they know everything up here, and you can see that they're almost struggling to have it transform their heart. They understand stuff, they're brilliant. I'd sit there in these classes and I was terrified of the Bible. I told my bishop up in Minnesota, which is the diocese that sent me to seminary, I can't go to seminary. I don't know the Bible. What's what? He goes, that's why you're going to seminary. And in some ways I was a blank slate. So there was a lot of time in seminary where professors would be arguing with students who thought they knew the Bible better. And I was just didn't even understand the argument. But I've come to appreciate that and not diminish that about myself. But it kind of keeps me faithful to God because I need that sense constantly that I'm not alone. That Jesus still loves me. And I know this because that big book tells me so. And the people that I get to be with every day in the church community remind me of that. And I receive that same kind of love all the time. Like, oh yeah, this is great. But, and so, I don't even remember the question.
No. Just the way God gifts us with different gifts, right? And how that's played out in your ministry and your priesthood, right?
Yeah. So I do think that sometimes, churches would be really well done by business people. We're not business people necessarily, we're required to be that. And so you hope that you have folks in your community who can take that on and make good decisions for you. I know I said that my job was to get kind of the best people around the vestry table and then have a meeting, and I'll listen and learn, or a finance committee meeting in places like St. Mark's and Good Shepherd and these congregations up here. God knows you hope you have finance people who know more than Jim Cook does sitting around that table, because it's complicated and the world is complicated. And it seems like my goal, our goal is just to get the right people at the table and let them do their work.
And I think to that end, that's exactly why we've been talking and you've accepted a call to be the assisting priest here, because we have a large population that needs pastoral care, that needs to be visited, that needs to and while I feel very competent in doing all of that, I also don't have as much bandwidth to do as much of that as I can. And so it's great to have you, who I consider to be kind of the creme de la creme of visitation. I mean, now the hope, you're going to be like, wow, Jim Cook's going to come see me. You're going to have this big expectation. It's just going to be like this.
I'm still sick. I'm still.
But no, and I think it's I think it is how these communities. One of the beautiful pieces of these communities that are healthy and that like Good Shepherd runs well is because of how the gifts of you all play together to do that work of building a whole. So welcome to the team. It's great to be in this way. I guess before we've got a little bit of time left. But are there questions that you wanted to ask Jim, Alex?
Yeah. First of all, you're an empath. I mean, my gosh, your soul is just open to all of us, and we see it. We saw it from the first day you came to the church, and when you cried at the baptism.
You guys don't be surprised with that. I'll pray the Eucharistic prayer. For some reason, you say those words, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I have to stop. I'm like,
How do you see the dynamic different at Good Shepherd from St. Mark's?
that's a good question. I feel like it's a bit more. The community here feels a bit more stronger, like bound together. I've always, you and I have talked about this, and I look at what happened, like what over St. Mark's over the years. Like I don't know if as a leader down there, as a leader, we did enough to sort of bond the community together in social things and the studies. There's a warmth here. St. Mark's feels a little more. They do a lot of really great things, and they're very outward focused. But to maintain it, like it's hard right now there without that. And I don't know if they hold together. So I'm learning, even still learning how communities function. Every community is kind of a different charisms, different gifts. And something up here is you're so warm and welcoming, and it feels like there's a lot of stuff going on that builds the community here within, and I find that to be a wonderful gift. And Peggy Green's looking at me, I know, yeah. I know the truth about Jim because she was the administrator at St. Mark's when I was hired. We worked together for what, 5 or 6 years, 7 years maybe.
Well, can I just make a comment about what Alex said about the empathy? And the thing about Jim, when you see him cry,
Yeah.
it's so real. And as his administrator, he used to drive me crazy because if anybody had a problem, the pastoral care, the priest he's talking about came right away. So whatever paperwork had to be done or a bulletin had to be reviewed, it had to wait because Jim had to go be that pastoral, empathetic priest that he is. And I'm tickled to hear that you can do that.
We see that, we feel that.
Kevin?
So it's really clear that your gifts are kind of different, right? Where do your philosophies diverge?
Our religious?
Yeah, your religious, is there any divergence in your religious?
I wouldn't go, I mean, I'll be interested to see how you answer this. I wouldn't start with the religious philosophies. I think we have different leadership philosophy. And specifically around how to be the rector or the priest of a community. So, and this is a compliment to Jim. Jim has a very, you have a very, you would hate this word, outreach focus, or that a community like St. Mark's is best served when the rector is really focused on those beyond the community and those we can serve out in the rest of the world, right? So your leadership was typically 1 or 2 or 3 car lengths ahead of the congregation, casting a vision that was, you need to serve the world. You need to be out, and during your tenure, we, St. George's in Riviera Beach, Nativity Campus in Pahokee, St. Mark's has 2 transitional houses, one in Riviera Beach and one in West Palm Beach. That was under your visionary leadership that kind of called the community, and people followed. People really, that speaks to people in a particular way. And I think that there are 3 ways of doing, or being a rector in these churches. That kind of outreach visionary focus is one that I think you embody. I think the other is kind of a formation first. Create disciples and do a lot of Bible studies and a lot of teaching and learning, and that's another way to do it, which I'm a little more like that. But then I think there's this third way, which you're pushing your finger on a little bit, which is this idea that this is our social center. the church becomes the social center of the lives of the parishioners, or the majority of the parishioners. One could call it fellowship, right? A fellowship-centric church. And I think that's who we are a little more, and I think that's actually, as a leader, who I tend to be a little bit more. I mean, so if you look at some of, and Kevin's the junior warden on the vestry and all this, so you can see where I've done some of that, right? We focus, you know, and Joe just walked out, but we focus on, oh, there she is. Sorry, Joe. I'm sitting there. You know, we focus on those opportunities to gather and to dwell together, to be together, and we try to kind of strengthen the core. And then that visionary casting, I don't feel like I am the primary person to do that, because we have people like Marilyn Lawrence, you know, and our, you know, Tracy Grassoff and our outreach committee who are doing that work for us and kind of inspiring us to do that. So I would say that's one difference between how we're leaders. I don't know if you would agree with that.
No, I think that's right, because I'm one of those, you know, those folks that kind of carry you feel like responsible for everything, and so you go home and you think of all the things you didn't do, right? It's a constant prayer in my life, like this. You should have done that better. You could have done this better. You made a mistake over there. And now look what's going on. I mean, I feel some responsibility about even things that are at St. Mark's today. Like it's rough right now in transitions. And did I retire too soon? Did I not?
Oh, gee.
Like all that kind of stuff. That's just me. That's being just transparent. And so when you look at that, all those things like, we should have done that. We should have done. And you know, you are who you are. God puts you in place. You do the best you can, right? And all things. And congregations respond if they trust you, right? If they kind of feel a relationship with the community. Theologically, I would say you and I are pretty close to being on the same sort of theological bent. You're not going to go to a Bible study that you lead, or one that I lead. You're going to go into his office. I can't believe, you know, Jim Cook is doing that and teaching that, and I'm not going to be like, you know, I mean, we both can challenge each other, but I think we have, again, I think we have a lot of respect for the church universal, and I think as Episcopalians, we're blessed with the invitation to have respect for other people who are not Christian or Episcopalians, so we're in that kind of soup that makes us why we, you know, like to be here. I married a Roman Catholic from the city of Chicago who never met a Protestant until she went to college. Literally, it was an Irish, Polish, northwest side of the city. Her dad helped build the Sears Tower, whatever it's called now, in the city. Very blue collar, Catholic all the way. I grew up as a Lutheran in Wisconsin, and in Wisconsin and Minnesota, you're either Lutheran or Roman Catholic, and the two should not meet, at least back in the 1970s. So when we got married, it was really controversial. A lot of families were not happy about it. We all liked each other. You know, my parents really liked Karen, her parents liked me, but getting married was like, are you kidding? We had to talk to pastors, priests, negotiate, all this stuff. And then, you know, blessedly, a year later, we didn't go to church for the first year we were married, so we didn't know where to go. And we were living in Chicago, and I just said, finally one Saturday, I said, let's try the Episcopal church. And Karen's like, what? They had not a clue what that was. And we went to an Episcopal church up in Arlington Heights, and it was like coming home, because the Bishop of Chicago was there for confirmations. So I see this guy coming in with a mitre and a crosier, and I'm like, oh. This is like what I don't want. But at the end of the service, there was so much overlap between the way it was done liturgically, and we learned a little bit more. But you know, this is a great home, so that's what we just joined like that. And what a great thing was, because our families were united around all the church they had to go to during my multiple services of ordinations and receivings and all that stuff. You know, all the families were there. So that's just a long way of saying, I think, and you grew up.
And I grew up
You know, I mean, so we have
married
common.
a former Roman Catholic.
Yeah, there are kind of commonalities that give us the same kind of the same read, if that will. And so I think that's helpful in congregation, that there's at least a similarity between how the clergy theologically think.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Very.
Joe?
But as a member of staff,
Yes.
Oops, don't worry, I'm not gonna say. And having worked for 3 different rectors here at Good Shepherd, I think, Sanford's strong suit is administrative. He is a great leader. I mean, oh my goodness, we have SOPs, standard operating procedures, for absolutely everything. And so we've always had that balance of that really strong administrative and that pastoral. So I think from that point of view, I think you guys make a great team. So I think I'm looking forward to the future and going forward with that. But yeah, so.
And it's fun, you know what, again, one of the joys of being sort of where I'm at in my career life and stuff is that when you're at this and you see it all, and you think, oh, this is really great. I don't have to go with that and change something where I'm going. Does that make sense? You're like, it's great to learn this, I could have done this differently in the old place, but I don't have to take it and then go beat myself up. Then I'm not gonna go back to my job and implement like what you're doing. If that makes sense. I mean, it's like, you go to a seminar and you go back and you go, I should be doing that, and you know. So, I'm revealing a lot about myself, sorry.
I mean, and I think it's human nature. I think a lot of us sell ourselves short, you know, sometimes, and that's human. And I continue to have. I don't know any other. I'm going to put it kind of in a stark way. I don't know any other priest in the Episcopal Church that was able to raise, $5 million like you did right before you left for the Hearts of Palm Center, right, for St. George Table. I mean, and that you did that in 12 months. Like that's unheard of to go and have that, again, taking that vision that he has and having people get excited and St. George Table has a long history in this diocese of being a hard place. I mean the St. George Community Center has been a hard place for decades, and it was under your kind of leadership. I know you're really right. It's hard. I mean, it's hard, but you did something, and and the legacy I think that you left was you refused to kind of just go with the status quo, and you said, here's a different way of doing it, and everyone said yes. I mean, $5 million of everyone said yes. Like that's a big deal. So I don't, retiring at the right time and all that. I don't think that's not the story. I mean, the story for me is here's an example in our church where churches are struggling to stay open, where churches are struggling to have people there, to youth, children, and yet there are 465 students at St. Mark's School. There's a robust youth group. There is multiple campuses. There is revitalization. There is, that's the legacy for me at least that you at least
He's doing pastoral care right now.
That's my version of pastoral care is to throw some statistics out and hope they stick. I think we have time for one more comment or question if you've got
So we can look forward to millions of dollars.
millions of wait till the sermon. Wait till the sermon. There you go.
Just like personal stuff, I'm a huge Badger fan. I drive a Jeep with a big Bucky on the back. Great for us. It's dismal in Madison. I worked at Arthur Anderson for 9 years in the Chicago office, and then transferred to Minneapolis, where I worked in media relations with my journalism degrees from the UW. And it was in Minneapolis that my wife finally said, go see somebody about this thing you keep talking about, thinking you want to be out. If I married a Lutheran, I'd be a Lutheran pastor. She's like, get it out of your system, go find out what's going on. And just be done with that.
You notice neither of our spouses are here right now,
Yeah,
right?
She's like, I'm sick of listening to you talk about it, go find out. Well, so that every time I went and saw a bishop or a committee is formed or something, in the back of your head, you're like, please help them say no. I don't want to do this. I think I'm supposed to do it, but I don't really want to stop working and go to Sewanee for 3 years and have no paychecks and 2 little kids. And I'm still kind of like not sure about all of it, my Bible comment, all of that. Like, what is going on? But for some reason, there was always that, oh yes, we're going to pass you on to the next group. Oh. So that's like a quick overview.
John, last.
Well, I've been new here for the past few months, and met Jim about a year ago this time. And I walked into St. Mark's, and I'm sitting out front. Nobody in the church was like, I was there Friday afternoon. I was like in the third pew back, and I see out of the corner
welcome, we have to go, it's time to go, so, see you in church, and thank you for joining us. Be sure to welcome Jim and get to know him,